The publishing world promises freedom of expression through your words. Honestly, the galaxy is the limit. But the whispers of what lurks down that long, dark tunnel to publication are truly the stuff of nightmares. The unfinished draft. Bleeding manuscripts after your editor sank her claws into it. Wrong files being uploaded and only discovered when the 1 stars start blazing in. Today on The Writer's Journey, we're exploring that dark tunnel to expose all the demons lurking ahead. With the help of Poppa, Manley, and Walt Robillard, horror stories of the author realm shall be revealed live.
Of doom.
Of doom. Walt and Poppa, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here. I do have a bit of a froggy tone to my voice, getting over a little crud, but happy to be here nonetheless.
Well, welcome to you and your frog. And Walt, it's been a long time. I haven't seen you in so long. What's going on?
That's because they don't let me out of my cage very much.
Who is they?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I am reserving the right to distribute names on account of it might incriminate the innocent.
Secrets and mysteries that seems to fit in with today's show.
How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Getting ready for this Halloween weekend.
I know, on a Sunday, it's a little weird.
Yeah.
Do you guys have like Poppa Chuck, you have to have like amazing style like Halloween decorations outside.
Not really, not this year. I've just been too busy. My daughter's had softball tournaments back to back to back to back. I just hadn't had really time to collect anything out. My wife's got a lot of fall decorations out, but I didn't get the good skeletons and whatnot up. So
there's a horror.
Missed opportunity.
There's a horror of our industry. People don't realize, well, you're home all the time. You should be all decorated. No, there is no time to decorate or think of good times.
I wish I was home all the time. But we've got an all day tournament tomorrow, and then Sunday there's something happening Sunday besides Halloween. I can't remember. And then tonight my son's new play is premiering, so we got to go see that. And just always doing something, but it's all right. Beats the alternative.
Family stuff is the best. This weekend, my sister, she's born on Halloween, so it's always her birthday, and she loves everything about it. We love to hand out the candy. We're going to be making your own pizza and maybe dressing up and hanging out as a family together. So it'll be good times. I'm excited for it. And Kalene, I've seen pictures of a special project you've worked on with your daughter.
Yeah, she wanted one of my steampunk skirts, but more pirate, so she's going to be a patchwork pirate. So I made her one of my skirts, so that was fun.
It's done and ready to go. It looks so
pirate.
Cute.
Yeah, she went as a creepy doll for school because they can't do too much with costumes at the school. So she put together like this creepy doll thing. So I put these cracks on her face, and I'm like, I realize you're not supposed to have makeup, but whatever, you're having makeup.
My daughter,
break all the rules.
The team my daughter's on right now, one of them, they spent the last 30 or 40 minutes of practice Wednesday decorating. They're gonna play tomorrow's tournament in undead prison inmate costumes.
Nice.
So they've all got all these blood smears, and they're gonna put on makeup and all this stuff, and they're gonna play the whole tournament that way. So nice. I thought that was pretty cool.
Getting into the spirit of the spooky. Love it.
Yes. Yes.
Speaking of getting into the spirit, Kalene and I, we were thinking, let's do something kind of spooky for authors and for writers and tell some spooky author stories.
So more like horror.
Yeah, horror stories.
Nothing scarier than reality.
Exactly what we were thinking. So we made a post, threw it up in the Keystroke Medium Facebook group, asking what monsters would keep authors up at night, and we got some responses. The first one is Thomas Hoddle said, "My brother-in-law panicking over every scene in his first ever novel."
Yeah,
that is a classic first novel anxiety right there.
It took me like 3 years just to write the first chapter because I couldn't write the first line.
Right, because you want to make every single thing perfect the first time out of your pen. And that's,
And
writing is
rewriting. You can't go chapter 2 until that first line's done.
No. But then chapter 2 is going to screw up chapter 1. So you got to, that is a classic beginner anxiety thing. I mean, because everybody wants their perfect golden words that first time out. But, like I said, writing is rewriting. So you gotta vomit out that first draft and then go find the crystals in the crap to make it good. That's just the way it works. That's I don't think anybody hasn't done that that's written a book. I really don't. I know I did on my very first novel.
What was your first novel?
It was the first book of a shared world fantasy, what was going to be a fantasy trilogy. And well, technically that wasn't my first book. Technically my first book was me and my best friend when I was about 10 or 11 would write these Hardy Boy style mysteries in little primers, where we were the heroes and stuff. But I don't really count those because I wasn't really worried about whether or not they were good back then. I just wanted to be the hero of the story. But my first one was, it was about a guy who was, he was like an Olympic archer. He lived in California and he meets this homeless girl. Long story short, him, her, and this serial killer end up getting sucked into a fantasy world where he's like the chosen one, and the serial killer ends up being the Dark Knight, and they're kind of squaring off over the course of the story, and it's a whole raise an undead army kind of thing, and he ends up having to, at the end of the first book, he had to kill his the homeless girl. He ended up having to kill her because she turned, and it, that was sort of his tie-in moment, because he's going to make sure he's got to go get the guys that put him in that position. But I never finished the trilogy. Mm-hmm. I've still got the notes for it around here somewhere. My wife it's actually right here on my shelf. She, it's when we were dating. She found the manuscript and she had read it. And she took it out of my bedroom and had it bound into this big hardcover book. It was like a Christmas present or a birthday present or something. But the funny thing was, that was before a lot of that it was on a typewriter, and she actually got she got the rough draft version and not the finished version that I was sending to editors and stuff. So the copy of the book she gave me is just full of typos.
all of your vomits. Thank you for gifting me my vomit.
Great gesture. Wrong box.
Do you still have it?
Oh yeah, it's right here on my shelf with the rest of my stuff.
Can't throw away gifted vomits.
I got a little vanity shelf right here that I put my books on. It's kind of my goal to fill it up before I kick off the mortal coil.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That first one you slaved over, how long did it take you to figure out, I just need to get the words on and move on, finish, and then revise?
Well, I think writing the little books that I was talking about with my friend when I was a kid kind of helped me realize you can't constantly be, you got to just get it down. But to really overcome that compulsion to constantly be going back to fix it as you go kind of thing, year and a half, 2 years probably. I mean, it took me to finish that book. I probably worked on that for 3 years, I guess. You can't throw away gifted vomit. That should go on a t-shirt.
You know what we can do? I can clip out some of these sound bites and we put them into a zip file and sell them on the Keystroke Medium website and donate all of it to charity. But the zip files can be used as like your ringtones, your text message tones.
There you go.
Put
it on t-shirts and give it to all the KSN.
If I go to 20 books and I hear you can't give away gifted vomit, in my voice in someone's phone, I'm just going to be.
That's awesome.
Well, our family dog Mardu, he would agree. Whenever he has his own, he tries to take it back, and I'm like, no, you cannot do that.
No, nobody wants to see that.
Nope. All right. So next up, we have J. Clifton Slater. He said, self-critiquing as I write rather than creating the story. Horror show.
Yeah. So who hasn't paced back and forth in front of the screen like, I can't do this anymore?
Yeah. Those arguments with your internal editor You know,
I
it's
already
like,
used the word "and."
yeah, I'll use that word 3 times. Shut up, just write.
How many
No,
times have I
go
said
back,
he?
fix it. That's very. I think that's really common for most even people who've been at it a while. You know, I catch myself doing crap like that all the time.
And the big ones, like, is this idea even a good one? Will people like
Oh
this?
yeah,
Is this funny? Should it be funny?
right.
Is this going to make people cry? I'm crying because maybe it's that bad.
Well, I mean, that's not really a joke, you know. I mean, that kind of lends into what I think one of the other things is the whole imposter syndrome thing. You know, that constantly second guessing yourself as to whether or not this is what I should be doing, or you know, am I ever going to be any good at this, and stuff like that. And you know, that's, again, I really don't know anybody that didn't go through that at some point. I've heard like big name professional authors talk about they'll be on their 30th book or whatever and have bestsellers under their belt, but they're still like, am I done? Is this over? You know,
it's the best I can do.
Is this the best I can do? You know, it's confidence is a hard one thing, and a lot of people just struggle with it, you know.
Did you guys ever read or see the movie Mr. Brooks with Kevin Costner?
Yeah, that was a good one. I enjoyed.
Did you guys see that? No, it's an older film. It's 2005, 2006.
Yeah, it was early 2K.
Oh, that's old. So old.
I'm telling you. It was funny because one of my students I saw last weekend, one of my there was a big kids karate tournament, so we went and went to help out, and he was like, dude, it's been forever, like years since we've seen you. And I'm like, dude, it hasn't been that long. He goes, you've gotten even older. I'm like,
that happens.
Thanks.
Thank you. But it's the Mr. Brooks movie is about a normal, everyday guy who's just going through the motions, and constantly in the background, he has this like schizophrenic little apparition who constantly gives him advice and blah, blah, blah. Well, it turns out he's really good at giving advice and killing people, because Mr. Brooks, beside his normal life with his family and his wife and his child and all this other stuff, pillar of the community, is a serial killer. And he's exceptional at it. Yeah. But I mean, the writers, we just saw that the other day because my little brother hadn't seen it. And it reminded me of like that little dude who's like kind of like in the background in your imagination going, I wouldn't write that way. That's not how Bob Salvatore would do it. You know, Josh Hayes wouldn't write that kind of story, you know, and he's just hovering over you. Like, I just thought of that when I saw that movie. I'm like, wow, how do I get rid of that dude?
Yeah. I really believe that every writer has that voice, and some of us has just learned how to put it down better than others. But mine still, you know, and I'll be honest with you, this book I've been working on forever, this second Jack Dark book, honestly, it's been the most difficult book I think I've ever written. And that's counting that first one I was just telling you about, just because, you know, I think you can quiet that voice more when you can really get in the groove and stay in the groove. Because then you're not quite, it's not so much your rational mind doing things as much as it is the artistic, emotional part of your brain. Mm-hmm. But as soon as you start thinking about things in a more factual kind of way, like if you get interrupted constantly, like I do when I'm trying to work, I think that voice gets a lot stronger. And, you know, through COVID and everything else, and, you know, the kids getting busier and busier, I've had to struggle with that a lot more. And this book, the amount of time it's taken me to write, it really shows that. Because it's just harder. That voice makes it harder to get into that flow state. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people struggle with that.
So imposter syndrome, that's when it really becomes a problem for writers, is when it's stopping you from writing.
Yeah, well, and I think you start questioning what you're doing not so much in a way of, hey, is this a good story? But you start questioning yourself. Like, oh, I suck. I'm no good. My words don't matter. You know, this idea has been done to death. Why am I bothering to try and do it better or put my twist on it? Nobody's going to give a shit about my twist. who cares about what I'm writing? And I think, and then you look, you have that mindset, and then you look at people who are successful, Stephen King, whoever, and, you start doing that comparison thing. And Bukowski wrote that some people are going to love what you do. Some people are going to hate what you do, but the vast majority of people just don't give a damn. And that's the honest truth.
Yeah.
That reminds me of, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
There's a meme thing going on in the Facebook land. Little stick figures. He's like, I did the thing. And like, there's this crowd of people, we love the thing. And that one person, I hate the thing. So he changes the thing. And then all the people who love the thing are just like, yeah, we don't like that thing anymore. He's like, well, will you buy the thing? He's like, I didn't care. It's like, just do your thing. And the people who love it will hopefully eventually find you. I say hopefully eventually.
And that's the point I was leading to, is that you've got to make yourself one of the people that love it. You can't worry about if it's like Stephen King or Terry Brooks or whoever. You have to make yourself, like, you have to love the story you want to tell, and you have to love telling it your way. Otherwise, you're going to run it. That voice in your head is just going to get so loud that you'll either end up quitting or just, driving yourself nuts. So I find it comforting to bear in my mind that the vast majority of people just don't give a shit. They just don't. So if they don't care and it's something I want to do, then I'm going to do it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You have to, because that confidence thing isn't really about you. It's about your fear of judgment. People who think in those terms of, why am I doing this? It's not going to be any good if I'm, you're not really thinking about what you're doing. You're thinking about how people are going to react to what you're doing. You're thinking about being judged for the work that you're engaging in. And you got to get past that. For me, writing is about the writing. And once I've done the best work I think I can do, and I put it, best work I think I can do, and I put it out in the world, after that, I don't give a shit. That's completely out of my control. The world's going to react the way the world's going to react. I worry about what I can control. And the only thing I can control is doing the best work that I can do. And I think if you latch on to that mindset, you can kind of overcome the fear of judgment and the fear of being compared to somebody else and not being as good as somebody else, because you did the best you could do. And you can look in the mirror at the end of the day and say, hey, I wrote that shit and I love that shit. And, I don't care what anybody else says. I need some more tea. Yo.
Papa Chuck laying down the truth.
Yeah.
Truth bomb. Well, Patricia Gilliam in the chat was saying that I like the post Neil Gaiman made about meeting another Neil at a party and then both discussing imposter syndrome. It turned out to be Neil Armstrong.
That's a good one.
Thanks,
awesome.
Niels. Yeah, I've definitely felt that too. I think Kalene and I felt that with our writing and with the podcast too. And one way that we get through it is we talk about what's going on. We talk about our feelings, and if it's a story problem, we talk about the story problem. We just bounce ideas off each other and hold each other accountable to actually writing the next word and getting that chapter written.
Exactly. It's all about forward momentum.
Right.
You got to keep it going. I actually printed out some of my favorite 1-star reviews.
Oh,
nice.
Wow.
Let's
hear them. I would love to hear them.
Before we hear those, I do want to add, even as an editor, like sometimes I'm like, gosh, am I doing too much? Am I overwriting the author's voice? But I spend a lot of time trying to get into the author's head and pushing them to be even greater than they are. But that still like lingers, because going in there tinkering with, this work of art that they have probably languished over everything that we've just said, and I'm going in like, cha-ching! So we're just gonna have to remove 10,000 words and change 50,000 more. But yeah, anyway, let's start.
Yeah. So the reason I brought this up and printed these out was because, pursuant to that fear of judgment thing, a lot of people will obsess over bad reviews. You know, like my book Awakened on Audible's got like over 2,000 reviews so far, but there's about 16 or 17 of them that are 1 stars. And I know, you know, and I know people that will, no matter how many good reviews they got, they're going to focus on those bad ones because they want to make everybody happy, and you're never going to make everybody happy. So I actually go and intentionally read my 1-star reviews so I can kind of get a chuckle out of them because, you know, I liked what I wrote and they just happen to not. And there's 8 billion people in the world. I'm sure there's quite a few other people that would like it or just don't give a damn. Because at the end of the day,
2,000 reviews and 16 of them are 1 star.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we're not curing cancer or creating world peace here. We're just telling stories. So, you know, don't beat yourself up too much about it. But the first 3 are for Awakened, the one on Audible, and then the last one I especially want to read because this guy seemed to really take the book personally. I mean, I don't think he was mad at the book. He was pissed at me.
How dare you allow me to read this?
I'm telling you. But anyway, so the first 2 are real short. Just no. Yeah, way too dark for me. Description was off. No, 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 no. And then the next one is crap. Sci-Fi for frat boys. Didn't get very far, so not the most reliable review, I know, but what I read was pretty terrible. And then this one, this one is Research Does Wonders. This is my favorite one, really. It's kind of long, but I'll brush through it. The author really needs to stick to writing what he knows, or at least do some basic Google research about things he knows nothing about, like when the Glock having enough recoil when fired by a grown man with moderate strength to smack him in the head. Shotgun smelling like cordite when cordite has been replaced by more modern propellants and was mainly used by the British, not the U.S. Also, he needs to research military and paramilitary tactics when it comes to escorting and protecting unarmed civilians. The lack of research, and here's the line I absolutely love, the lack of research makes it sound like the book was written by a know-it-all neckbeard in his mom's basement. The plot has promise, but the execution just lacks.
Wow.
Know-it-all neckbeard. I want a T-shirt that says that. Because I would, if I grew this out, it would be a neckbeard because I got nothing on my cheeks. It's all down here.
Walt, did you write that?
That's what I think. I thought Walt secretly wrote it and doesn't want to tell me.
No, I can forgive the cordite thing a lot.
Well, and here's the thing. I seem to offend military and law enforcement people when it comes to guns because I know a little bit because I was in the service a million years ago and, you know, I did some shooting and stuff when I was a kid. But the vast majority of readers don't give a damn. They don't know the difference. So a lot of these guys, man, they hammer me on that stuff. And I'm like, whatever. People enjoy the book. Shut up. So here's the guy I think took it personally. And y'all can tell me what you think. This one was on my book, Master of Hounds. As for myself, I did not like the main character at all. His actions versus his history as revealed through the story are not consistent with the professional soldiers I spent 24 years with. The thought of murdering an innocent person just to accomplish a mission is anathema to true professional soldiers, and believe me, it would be murder, all caps. We serve to preserve the lives and rights of those very innocents, not to murder them in pursuit of some nebulous goal. I enjoy urban fantasy quite a lot. This offering was substandard at best and offensive to those who have and are serving their country. Now, all of that is in response to a scene where 2 of the characters are discussing. So it's urban fantasy, so there's magic, and there's this artifact out there that can hurt a whole lot of people at one time. Okay, and there's 2 characters having a conversation. You know, it's basically the trolley dilemma. If you can save 100 people by killing 1, is it worth it? And they never say, yeah, kill that dude. They never say that once. They both are kind of like, I don't know, man. We'll have to decide when we're in the moment. You know, it's kind of like that. This guy took it personal that I would even suggest that such a thing like that could happen. So I read those to point out to people that in no way changes how or what I'm going to write. You know, as a writer and you're creating these stories and you're pulling this stuff out of yourself, you kind of have to, you got to be this little island telling the story that you want to tell and then moving on to the next one. People like, nobody is ever going to write a book that everyone loves. So just give up on that idea immediately. And, you know, every once in a while you can find something constructive in these critiques. But the couple things to remember is that, one, most people who write reviews have never written a word in their life. And two, it's your story. Tell it the way you want to tell it. You know, there's that saying that if you can't find the book you want to read, then you got to write it. Right? So just write what you need to write, put it out there for the tribe and see who shows up. You know, it's just that to me, it's that simple and that difficult all at the same time. More tea.
Well, that last review with the writer had been in law enforcement for 24
he's in the military. I went
military.
and looked at a bunch of his other reviews on Audible, and he's pretty harsh on everybody. And he seemed to anything with a military aspect to it, he seems super critical of.
But it just reminds me that our readers, they're living their own lives and they're dealing with their own struggles, and they're coming at it from, you know, all different angles and reading your story and bringing that in with them. And, you know, hopefully we're entertaining them and hopefully we're giving them a little escape from that. And if he's happy to kind of correct the record on an Amazon review, he had his opportunity. And all to our audience, thank you for your service. Also.
But yeah, no, I definitely think he took anything military in his mind needs to be represented the way he sees it. Otherwise, it's an insult, which it's unfortunate. And hopefully he can see that it's just a story and you didn't write it to insult or represent anyone in any kind of negative light. But yeah, you just kind of gotta brush those off.
You gotta water off the duck's back. You know, you just gotta let that stuff go and not. I think writers can be obsessive, so stuff like this is easy to get obsessed about. Thank you, Patricia. So what else is on the list?
I was going to say, and speaking of Patricia Gilliam, her question, or I guess statement, trying to do all the things and finding where to focus.
This is especially pertinent for our podcast listeners because you might be listening to lots of author shows or business shows and getting lots of tips, which can be overwhelming. Where do I start? Walt, what do you think? You've gone from having a day job to now writing in an author publishing world like full time. When you're getting all of this feedback and all of these tips sound great and you got to start somewhere, how do you pick where to start today and kind of move forward?
So if you're doing it from like a full-time aspect, a lot of people are going to have a lot of different methods on what works for them. I would rather focus on the guy who's just getting into it and the guy who's just putting his fingers to the keys for the first time, or lady, you know, either one of them putting their fingers to the keys for the first time and saying, where do I start? What do I do? I think it really helps. And this is advice I've gotten from much more experienced writers who pulled me aside and said, all right, look, you have all of this, right? Here's what you need to narrow it down to.
Exactly.
You know? And that's the thing. Because like in the beginning, it's okay, I got to get my newsletter set up. I got to get my social media presence. I got to start writing the thing. And then when I have the thing, I have to push it forward so I can show people the thing. And then after I show people, and you're like, whoa, first of all, less caffeine. Second of all, right? Yeah, exactly. You know, but you know, the idea, yes, French press. So but the idea is find what you most want to do and focus on that first, right? Do you want to get your name out there? Cool, but you can't do that until you've written something to show people. Do you want to?
I think you need to start with the thing.
Yep. Do you want to establish that podcast where you show people how knowledgeable you are? Well, guess what? You can't do that until you have that thing that shows people how knowledgeable you are. You know, and my biggest, the biggest piece of advice that has really kind of pulled me back and put me in the chair for a longer period of time versus everything else I had going on. One of my writing senseis has said, you have 2 dogs, your wife, martial arts, you go shooting, you do archery, you do all this other stuff, plus you have a role-playing game business on the side. You need to put all that away, and for the first little bit, write. Become a monk and write. Now, it doesn't mean you have to cut yourself off from the world, but at the same time, writing isn't just about getting it out there. It's like any skill. If I have to tell somebody for the first time who's never shot a rifle before, look, this is the way you shoot a rifle so that you get on target every time. My advice is always going to be the same because it's always based on 3 factors. And in keeping with that, it's the same thing for writing. The main factor is that thing you are typing is a type of stone that you're carving, and it works both ways. It brings out the essence of your work in the sculpture that you're creating by typing those words, but at the same time, the coarseness of what you're doing further sharpens the chisel, so you can continue to keep pushing those words out. Because if you're not writing, you're not learning, right? And if you're pushing all this, like, I'm going to be on 15 podcasts and I need to do advertising with AdSense and Amazon ads and Facebook ads, and then I'm going to have to do with this guy, and it's like, whoa, stop, write something first, bro. Sister, sit down, slam those keys, own them, show people why you want to be a writer. Tell us a great story that you think is great, right? And then make us believe that it's great because you spent you poured everything into that keyboard. At the end of the day, when somebody like I had one of the greatest comments I've had in the first series I launched recently was from one of the editors, right? And I knew at that point, I was like, yes, I nailed it, right? And the comment was, this is not an editorial comment, but a personal one. Your main characters are truly horrible, despicable people, and I routinely find myself rooting against them. I was like, yes, I got you now.
That's what I wanted.
Right? Because now you don't have somebody rooting for them. You have somebody sticking page after page just to see if they'll fail.
Exactly.
And so, I mean, stuff like that, you just sit there and that didn't come from me sticking the landing the very first time. That came from, in the beginning, the editor sending me stuff back like, you really shouldn't do that this way. Here's a better way to do it. From people reading and helping me beta read the thing and being like, that made no sense, dude. You're probably the only one who
that goes back to the writing is rewriting thing.
Yeah.
You write it, you get feedback, you reread it yourself. I always read my stuff out loud to myself before I send it to an editor. And then you go back and you fix it, and that's what so many of the new folks don't get. They think they're just going to do it once and be done, and no, that ain't how it works.
Yeah, and I mean that's when you're gonna kill. She really deserves it. That's not the one they wanted me to kill. Oh, thanks, Patricia. I really appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, focus on the writing first, right? And then as things come, because I remember when I first got started, it was around the time my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and writing at that point was kind of like I needed something to occupy my headspace so that I wasn't so focused on my mom dying. And it was like, and I create this entire huge world with people I would want to hang out with, mostly because they were criminals. And it sparked into this whole thing. But then what was really cool was at the time, Keystroke Medium was talking about the 20 books thing, and there was all of these seminars that they had graciously put online for people to watch. And I binge watched every one of those things like 2 or 3 times, but the primary thing that kind of like really nailed it home was write every day. I mean, you got guys like Scott Moon, right? Everybody knows what his main hustle is during the day. So he spends a long day like dealing with real world issues, and then he comes home and he writes, even if he gets 100 words, I mean,
Yep.
put your ass in a chair, or if you got a stand-up desk, stand there like a champion and put your fingers on the keys. Grab that pencil or whatever you got and just start writing, even if it's 100 words. Recently, one of my good friends that I've known for a really long time, we worked together in the role-playing game industry, and he wants to start writing, and he's like, dude, I can't get anything out. And I'm like, all right, look, every day at 5 p.m. sit down and write 100 words. Doesn't have to be 100 great words. Just sit down every day, 100 words. Right. So he calls me up a couple of weeks later and he's like, dude, I'm up to like 2,000, 3,000 words in a pop. I said, because it's the repetition. It's just like when you train, when I have, everybody who knows me knows that I love dogs and I love animals. And I have 2 very large dogs that we have to train because they're very energetic. And if you don't train them, they will monkey thump your head as they're trying to tell you how much they love you. Right. So, I mean, they're not mean. They're going to jump because they want to kiss your face. They want to say hi. But that's not how polite society works. They should sit and wait to be pet. That takes a level of discipline. So what you do is you start with treats. You start with positive reinforcement. You start with petting. You start with gently reinforcing what you want, and consistency. That consistency does more for teaching that animal what you expect and ingraining that animal to your point of view, so much to the fact that you become part of their pack and they become part of yours. It's the same thing with writing. Every day, put your fingers on those keys and start slamming. It doesn't matter, 1, 5, 1,500 words. Who cares? Write something, even if it's a cool post. Like, if you don't want anybody to see it, but like you don't really feel like you should put it in a Word document, put it in a Google spreadsheet, type it to an email to a friend, to set up a fake email account and just email it to yourself, just put it down somewhere so that later on those ideas, oh man, I wrote this cool thing about this 15-year-old sorceress in a steampunk skirt, right? But seriously, you just put the words down, because at the end of the day, those things will come back to you. And if this is truly something you want to do, whether it's a hobby, a full-time profession, or, you just really enjoy the community, that one thing will get you moving, and that's consistency.
Louis L'Amour, one of my favorite quotes is from Louis L'Amour from his book Yonderings, which is kind of a autobiographical / writing book. But he said, just start writing no matter what, because the water doesn't flow if you don't turn on the faucet. It's just that simple. I tell a lot of people, in writers groups and stuff that I've been part of over the years, when you sit down at the keyboard, if nothing's coming, if the story's just not there, then you do what just stream of consciousness writing, where basically, if you think to yourself, shit, I don't know what to write, you type, shit, I don't know what to write. And then you see where that sentence takes you, what the next thought is, and the next thought is. And eventually you're going to get to, I need to write about the story. The story's about this guy and blah, 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 and blah, blah. And eventually it's going to get get those gears turning and get those juices flowing and get you where you need to be story-wise. But it's just that act of putting words on screen or paper or whatever. I mean, that's priceless. That's what kickstarts the whole thing.
And that sounds like it could help you defeat another one of our monsters under the bed for authors, and that's writer's block. So that's one we hear a lot about, that, I just can't write anything because I'm stuck.
I don't believe in writer's block.
We don't believe in it.
I used to believe in it.
Personally.
But I don't anymore. Because when I was first starting to write, it was like, I don't have any ideas. But it wasn't that I didn't have any ideas. It was one of the first things we were talking about. I didn't know how to write those ideas. So I didn't have ideas because I didn't know how to write them.
Right.
So as time went on, I realized it's not really writer's block. It's just, I just need to just get, even if they're, as we've been saying, bad words, all the walking, all the looking, all the hads, all the asses, all the bad things that me and Lauren take and Ellen take out of your manuscript. This is typically my first draft because I'm not thinking about the good words. I'm just trying to get down the idea. There's a certain flow or a texture or a sound to the words that I want to have. And I just need to get the mud from here to there in some kind of blobulous form, and then I can mold it.
I think that writer's block can be boiled down to a couple of different things. One, I think it's just you might be writing the wrong thing. You know, like maybe you've got an idea for a fantasy novel, but you can't get going on it. So if you have other ideas or you want to write a blog post or something, work on that, because your subconscious is going to start marinating that other thing, you know, but write something. Everybody says writer's block because it's not, they can't write the thing, that one thing that they're really focused on. That's what they're blocked on. But I tell you, if you go and work on something else, it's like cracking the ice so the water can start flowing out. And I think either they're writing the wrong thing and they need to work on something else. They could be burned out. If you're somebody that does a lot of writing, take a day off. You know, it's just that simple. Just don't take a year off.
Yeah.
But like, you know, writing is work, and everybody needs a break from work every now and then. So if you've been writing consistently for 6 months or something, maybe give yourself a weekend, you know, go and see a movie or whatever, you know. And the other thing might be they might not like their idea as much as they think they like their idea. You know, you could subconsciously feel like, all right, there's something severely wrong with this, but you can't really put your finger on what it is. And if I'm halfway into a manuscript and I'm feeling like, oh, I'm blocked, I've learned over the years that I just go back and reread everything I've written. Because a lot of times I'll go, holy shit, that I screwed up right here. That's why what's going forward isn't really working, because I did this thing in chapter 18 or whatever, you know? So I think really those are the three big ones when it comes to writer's block. And if you sit down and you just don't have an idea, I go back to the stream of consciousness thing. Just start writing. If you see a bird out the window, describe the bird. Write something. Turn that faucet on. Get that water flowing. But writer's block. I mean, I'm like Kalene. I used to think it was a thing, but as I've written more and gotten older, I don't buy it as much anymore. I think it's an excuse sometimes. I think people can use it that way. I don't mean that in an intentional, oh, you're a lazy piece of shit kind of way, but just they'll say, oh, I'm blocked. And that's a good reason not to work on it anymore. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I think we need to be, you know, sometimes people need to be a little sterner with themselves and try and find a way around it as opposed to through it.
It reminds me.
There you go.
Yeah.
Ken says the same thing, right around the thing.
Right around the thing. Yes, exactly. Good way to put that.
Yeah. The excuse of writer's block, because that's kind of where I'm at in my mindset with it. Reminds me when my daughter was, you know, about around 4 or 5-ish, you know, the thing that she would always say is, oh, well, my brain made me do this thing. And I'm like, really, sweetie, where's your brain? Aren't you your brain? Your brain is saying words right now.
That's awesome.
You are your brain. You chose to do the thing. Quit making excuses for you doing it. But it was like in her mind, you know, her brain and the actions that were happening were this like other thing happening, just like coming in and making her body do stuff, and
there was somebody else steering the ship.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like that's kind of how I see writer's block now. It's like it's your own thing. You have the control to take it by the horns and, you know.
Yeah, but you know, it takes a while for people to figure that out.
It did. It took her. You know, this was like a few year long thing of me just constantly, right, every time that would come out of her mouth, you know, just like think about this for a second, sweetie.
Now, have you guys heard Larry Correa's Writing Dojo podcast?
I have not.
No,
it's really good.
Yeah. I looked at it.
I've talked to him at cons. He's
a fun dude.
He's a super guy.
Yeah, we've had him on a couple of different shows. Steve interviewed him a couple of.
We had him here on the Writer's Journey.
On the Writer's Journey, yeah, and I got to sit on that, and I was geeking out like a fanboy.
Yeah,
I love his stuff so much.
I'm actually reading his Son of the Black Sword series. Right
yes,
now. Super good.
Right,
super good.
But on his podcast, he's got this thing of like, writing advice with an eye toward making that your business, your career, how you support yourself. And he said about when he was asked about writer's block, he's like, how come nobody, because for those who don't know, he used to be an accountant, right? And some of the people that he still hangs with, including his co-hosts, are still practicing accountants. And he looked at his co-host and he said, when was the last time you had accountant block?
Exactly.
Or when I had to bring my car to the garage to get fixed, and the guy had mechanic block. I mean, does that cost extra? And he's got a point. If you want to be a writer, write. I mean, like, me and some of my friends, we've been doing martial arts for decades, and we step on the mat. It's like, he's bigger. I don't know if I'm really feeling the muse. I don't know if I'll be able to negotiate all of that. No, you put your gloves on, you swallow your mouthpiece, and you go after it. It's the same thing for writing.
It's kind of, and that's something I learned working in healthcare. When I was working cardiac and trauma back in the day, you'd get a call at 2:00 in the morning for some emergency or whatever, and you couldn't be like, I'm just not feeling it.
Right.
And just can they wait till in the morning? Well, just put the blood back in somehow. We'll get to it later. No, that's not how that shit works.
Oh my God. But yeah. I thought that was a great point. Hey, what do you call
exactly.
it?
Especially if you're in it to make a living, then you absolutely have to treat it like a job. I mean, I honestly I don't worry too much about the money because my lifestyle's, I'm married way up. She's way better than me. Y'all would love her, but so I can kind of be artistic about it. But if you're looking to pay the bills with your writing, I think you need an office away from your house and all the distractions that come with being at home. I think you need to have set office hours where you go to your place and say the first 4 hours of your day you spend making words, and then the next couple hours of your day you spend advertising whatever, and you treat it like a job, and then you get out and go home. I know that who was it, Ender's Game guy, Orson Scott Card, he actually had an office with a secretary, the whole bit. When he got big and made some money, he actually rented an office, and he would, like, if somebody wanted to interview him, they met him at the office. If he wanted, whatever, that was where he worked, and then he was at home because that was his job. Is still, I guess. I don't know. He's still alive. But I think if you're looking to make money at it, that's what you got to do. Like, I don't consider myself a hobbyist, but it's not. I worry more about making good books and telling the story I want to tell than I do about whether or not I'm going to make $1 bajillion off of it. But if you're somebody who the money is your motivating factor, then you absolutely have to have a business mindset around it. That is a must. So yeah, it's got to be your job, and you've got to. But that also includes giving yourself days off. Maybe you work 6 days a week, or depending how many hours you're putting in or what your goals are. But and then you spend a couple days with your family and friends or whatever. But yes, it absolutely has to be a job if you're looking for the dollar bills.
Patricia Gillum said, I've used libraries and some restaurants that way.
Yeah, I've got a library near my house that I use like that sometimes when I just have to get out of here.
And I like that you brought up doing this as a job, because that's another one of the monsters that a lot of authors face is we'd like to make money at our book sales too. And producing a book costs so much in terms of your own personal time, and then editing and cover design off the front end. And then you don't get any sales. You don't get cash from the sales for some months later. And then the sales might not meet your expectations and might not end up covering the cost of producing the book in the first place. So there's another kind of monster that what might keep people up at night is, how do I pay my bills? So you're saying one of the solutions is to have separate writing space.
I find that's useful from time to time, simply because, like, if you're at home, the yard needs mowing, the laundry needs doing, the dishes need washing, the dog needs to be walked. and you got all of those excuses to not write. And nothing is more attractive to a writer than an excuse to not write. I mean, that's just every writer I've ever known. They'll sit down with the good intention of working, and then they'll check their email. And then they'll check Facebook to see if anybody sent them an author message. And then oh, my new podcast dropped. I got to check that out. They will do everything but write. But if it's even tangentially related to writing, they count it as part of their day, but it produces nothing.
Yeah.
So I think if you have a place away from home where you can't give yourself any excuses to be distracted, it's very beneficial if again you're doing it as your income. Secondarily to that, if you're doing it as your income, understand that if you just want to make money, go get a job.
Yeah, because
there are zero guarantees that this goes back to you put it out in the world and do the best you can, but there are zero guarantees on return. There's a lot of really good books out there, I have no doubt, that are making no money whatsoever. And then a lot of books that aren't that great in the broader scheme of the craft that are doing fine just because of either luck or the person already had an audience from something else that just came over to him, whatever. There are zero guarantees you're going to make any money, no matter how hard you work. I mean, it's just that way. It is. If you work in the arts, then you do not have a guaranteed career in any way, shape, form, or fashion. You know, we talk about how being indies, we don't have to worry about gatekeepers and all that stuff like that. I don't necessarily think that's true. I think our gatekeepers are Amazon and the buying public, because we can't do squat about what they're going to think about what we do. And we damn sure can't do anything about Amazon's algorithms. Yeah. So
I like Michael Rothman, who's a thriller author. He when he comes on different podcasts and stuff like that, he likes to do the broadcast from his office. And right over his left shoulder is a big, huge framed poster, and it says in repetition all the way down, "No one cares." Just in repetition all the way down.
Absolutely.
But in big, bright letters in the middle of all of that, it says "Work harder."
Yep. I love that. I actually would like that for my office wall, to be honest with you. I'll put it right
but then we couldn't have the star lines.
Well, if I put it right here, it'd be out of sight. So I think it'd be all right. Yeah, I love that. I actually like that a lot, because
no one cares. Work harder.
It's the truth, you know. Yeah.
That's a truth bomb I had to give my daughter the other day, because she's getting more into arts, drawing and stuff, and she's like, I really want to try and work for this to be like my career when I get older. She's like, can I make money being an artist? And I'm like, well, sweetie, I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. It's going to be extremely difficult. Like, you are going to have to hustle like you have never hustled in your life. You're going to have to work all the time, really hard, be really irritated at yourself and life for a very long time. I'm like, but maybe.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you just keep going at it, you find the right avenues, you take the right opportunities, and you allow yourself to see the opportunities. That's another thing. Allow yourself to see the opportunities, and you can make it work, but you're gonna have to work at it every day, and remember not to work yourself as hard as mommy does. Because
I mean, how many talented actors and musicians do you think there are in the world waiting tables? You know, pretty much the arts are just that way. You know, it's just it's got to be a labor of love, at least in the beginning. You know. If you can start out as labor of love and you just do the work because you want to do the work, and then you hit it big, you write something that resonates with a whole lot of people, then you can really start thinking about making it your primary income, because you got to have that audience, and building an audience is getting tougher and tougher and tougher.
Leo Vaccaro says, first project, write to passion. If you want to do it for a living, write to genre fan base.
That's good news. That's good advice.
And for everyone out there who might be gritting their teeth like, but you find what you like, you find the things that you enjoy writing, You look at what's, really popular, and things. Where do they meet in the middle? How can you take a little bit of this and mix a whole crap ton of that and make money?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the $1 million question, isn't it?
And that's a personal answer. It's going to be different for every author, even in same genre.
Yeah.
It's going to be a different equation to the answer.
I was having a conversation. Was it with my son or my wife? One of my family members. We were talking. They were asking me about the book I've been working on, and I told them it's urban fantasy. It's a tough genre to make money in. Yada yada yada. And they said, well, what does make money? I said, well, right now, military science fiction is really popular, and that's what most of my friends in Keystroke do. And it was my son. He's like, why don't you just write that? And I'm like, well, it's really not that simple, because you can't.
Yeah, why not just grow wings and fly?
I was like, yeah, I could write that, but there's no guarantee that I'm going to write it in a way that's going to resonate with people who love military science fiction, because I don't really read that. I've read some, but I don't read a lot of it. So, I don't know all that. That's kind of like saying, well, shit, just write a romance. That's what my wife asked me. Hallmark season is starting, and I love.
Uh-oh.
I want to know what Papa Chuck loves.
No.
I got it. I got the screen cap.
Excellent.
Okay, well, while hopefully Papa Chuck comes back so we can figure out what he loves, we do have a spotlight.
Yes.
So there is an opportunity where authors out there, you're like, how can I get people to know my book? Well, I know sometimes we do, advertisements for people's books. Sometimes we do spotlights. And today's is on The Revenant, a military sci-fi series, Hunter's Moon, Book 2 by Walt Robillard. In a game of revenge, the only wise choice is not to play. At the edge of frontier space, renegade Templar Oren Lashra has invaded capture by the Marshals and their premier fighting force, the Lancers. Darting across the colonies, Lasher and his friends wage a brutal war against the Seven Seats cartel for their part in the murder of the woman he called Mother. Lasher's relentless pursuit of vengeance soon draws the attention of the Gunwraith, a mysterious mercenary intent on taking Oren for a client who considers the fugitive's capture a no-fail mission. Can Lasher stay one step ahead of the cartels and the Lancers in order to burn his enemies to cinders? Ride beside Lasher and his crew as they draw closer to payback and a conspiracy that could rattle the foundations of the frontier. Hunter's Moon. The Revenant blends military science fiction with hardcore space opera to weave a tale of loyalty and revenge. Fans of Killjoys, Star Wars, and Dark Matter will steal the blaster's grip and the ship's throttle as they rocket into the frontier. Get yours today! I do not have a link.
Or you find it on Amazon.
Of Doom.
Oh, thank you. That's awesome.
Pretty good, Kalene. Oh,
I miss readings, but I have no time for it. And that is my biggest author spooky story, is there is no time. I get up sometimes at 6 o'clock in the morning and I forget to eat.
Yeah.
I still haven't ate today because of working stuff. And I just go and go and go. And
right, Keystroke fam, we need to Grubhub her a sandwich.
Yeah, that's
what I'm thinking.
Have a Amazon drone come in with turkey and nuts and things.
And my family has to remind me, you need to take a break. And I'm like, but I really just need to get this done. And so it's just it just never feels like there's any time.
I think that's something else that a lot of people don't get when they start coming into this, is if you have a family or a regular job, you can't commit, and unless you have figured out a way to live without sleep, you cannot commit the amount of time you need to really make big money off of this stuff. Because you got to watch the advertising, and you got to do the newsletters and write the books and keep releasing, and you've got to really commit it's a full-time job, really. I mean, heck, even I think it was Craig said, I heard him say one time that, like, if you've got little kids and stuff, you're not going to be able to do this. You know, I think it was in his Facebook ads thing or something I saw him on. I mean, it's just, you have to have realistic expectations. I mean, I think a lot of people still think that this is some sort of, you know, write an ebook and they're going to back a dump truck full of money up to your door, you know, like this instant success kind of thing. And then there's not. There are no magic cures. There's just isn't. I write a lot of stuff about magic, but it ain't real. You know, I mean, it's just not. It's great fiction, not a good way to live your life.
Kit in the YouTube chat said Brandon Sanderson wrote 13 books before he was published.
Yeah.
It was his 6th book.
Yeah.
You know,
the power of the backlist, baby.
Yep.
Power of the backlist.
Not going to have it if you don't write it.
It's
Precisely.
And at the end of all the horrors, get your butt in the chair and write some words. Even if it's 10 words, write a sentence every day.
The bottom line is, if you're a writer, you got to write.
Yep. Writers
write. That's what we do. Even if it's a blog post or a newsletter or something, you should write something every day.
And you know, with the way Amazon is right now, with Kindle Vella and all this stuff,
I was wondering how that was doing.
You don't have to drop $100K plus on a novel, sprinting your fingers across the keys. You can write a 5,000 to 6,000 word chapter and publish that today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, with 2 editors on the please, for the love of God, edit your work.
That's it.
You know, otherwise we're going to have a grocery list that you wrote in the middle of your manuscript, and I don't want to know what you buy in between.
If you want to have some of your own 1-star reviews to read on the internet, then by all means, don't edit work.
But I mean, Kindle Vella. Yeah, exactly. Kindle Vella. There's a platform that can be monetized out there called Substack. You could do that. I mean, you know, release that free story on a Monday, you know, a chapter that you wrote on Sunday, release it on Monday, free to everybody, for everybody to read, and let everybody know, hey, on Friday, I'm going to release the paid chapter, which is the next chapter that takes place after this. And, you know, and for $5 a month, you have a group of people who are supporting your work because they like what you're doing. Substack, yep.
Yeah, okay. And that's kind of, because I know that Amazon's doing like the coin token thing. It's kind of the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Friend of the show, Eric Hansen. He's got 20 chapters that he's done already.
Really?
Yeah, and it's really good. Kind of like Viking-esque type stuff. Also friend of the show, Nick Cole. He's got a Kindle Vella out, Into the Unknown. If you love that old school, like I got my orange spines right there on my bookshelf, right? If you love that old school D&D experience, right? Definitely the story for you. You got to check it out. But once again, you know, Amazon has the same thing. You know, Amazon is your literary drug dealer. You know, they're going to sit there and be like, look, bro, I got 5 brand new chapters right here for you. You want number 6, you got to drop a token, but first 5 are free. You know?
I was actually thinking that would be, I wrote a short story that I put up just for the hell of it. Not urban fantasy, but swords and sorcery fantasy kind of thing. Very, like you said, kind of old school D&D, just that stuff I grew up with and I love. And I was thinking Vella would be a good platform for that. Yeah, just like like you said, little installments, you know, 5,000 or 6,000 words.
Now I'm sorry, go ahead.
I do have one of my authors is specifically doing Vella right now. So it's, you know, and it's 5,000 words that he had. One of the chapters, it was 5,176 words. And he's like, I don't know where to cut. And I'm like,
oh, they cap it? Do they cap it?
Yeah.
5,000 period.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So he's like, I can't upload it unless it's 5,000 words or below. And I was like, give it here. I know where it can be cut. I cut like almost 200 words out of it. And I'm like, I gave you some wiggle room so you can choose. But yeah, so it's a weekly thing, and you can kind of like pick your day. You know, like, you know, you can upload every Monday, you can upload every Friday, and then you just do the weekly thing, bi-weekly thing, however you want to do it. And I think He had a review, like a vlog review. The first 3 episodes are free, so you can go in there and you can read the first 3 episodes of anyone, and then after that, I think you have to start paying.
Can you? And you may not know this, but I was just curious. Can you upload multiples? Like I was thinking, I'd want to do like 4 or 5 episodes and have them in the can and upload them all at once and sort of be ahead.
I believe so. I think you upload them, and then it's kind of like a you decide like this one's going to go out, Friday, and then this one's going to go out the next Friday.
So you can like schedule them.
Yeah.
Here's the word.
Okay.
Schedule
That's
the
cool.
episodes out. Yeah.
That's cool.
So you can be a modern day Charles Dickens and write serially and
Serial.
make your monies.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Just serial. It's serialized fiction, like the old pulps and stuff.
So I mean, this is good because it's got a built-in storefront pretty much. If you're going to do something like Substack or Patreon or something like that, you're using, a lot of those places can use things like Square to collect payments, all sorts of different things like that. But that's more on you, whereas Amazon's going to collect the money for you and kind of deposit that in your account. So, but with things like Substack or anything or Patreon, where you're releasing free content and then paid content, you have to make sure that you keep up with it, because these people are now paying a subscription. They want the content they're paying for.
Right.
It's like it's February 28th, right? You bought that gym membership for a year, but you've only met twice. Right?
Well, I think Patricia's probably got the right idea. Write everything and then have it up there. Yeah. I think that's probably the smart way to do it.
But yeah, on either of those platforms, you can do that. You can upload as much or as little as you want.
That's got to be kind of exciting. It may be a little bit like nerve-wracking, but exciting to be writing directly to an audience who is consuming your stories in real time.
Yeah.
They're waiting for them.
Oh, please go ahead.
I was just gonna say it can be a good way to get an idea of viability. So you can upload these things to these places. You can kind of see, is this gaining any traction? Are people interested in that first chapter? Are they going after the free part and continuing on? And at any time, you can always pull it. I would recommend probably finishing the story for those who've been following for that long. And then, be like, hey, guess what? Now it's on paperback. You can get the whole thing. You could get a fresh edit on it. You could add an arc that you didn't realize, especially if you're doing it weekly. Like you're just, unlike Patricia, who would finish the whole thing and then break it down. You're doing it weekly. You could, anyway, but yeah, lots of options. My brain's dying. All right. Any final thoughts on author horror stories?
Nobody cares. Work harder.
Bottom line, yeah, just be realistic. Don't look for the easy buttons. There aren't any. They don't exist. You got to sit down. You got to write. And if you're looking to make money, you've got to understand and really follow the business side of all of this. But the first thing, if you're new and you're coming into this and you have no idea what to do, the very first thing I personally think you should do is forget all about the business stuff, forget all about being on podcast or having a podcast or whatever, and sit down and write the very best book you can write, because nobody's going to give a damn about you if you go on a podcast and you're working on it. Nobody's going to care. So if you really want to do this, sit down and tell your story the best way you can, and then worry about the other crap.
And for $19.95 per hour, any one of the panelists today will stand behind you with their arms folded and scowl at you balefully while you write. You're not allowed to get up until you do.
Oh, wait, here you go. I'll
give you the daddy eyes.
Or if you're afraid, you can just come on our Facebook group, share a post, share your questions, your concern, and there's probably going to be someone else who's feeling the exact same way you are too. So see you there.
All right. Thank you so much, Walt and Papa Chuck, for coming on and talking about all of the hard stuff that people don't really want to think about. They just want it all to be sunshine, roses, and money flowing in from the necessary.
We all.
And it's a lot of hair pulling, screaming, and praying.
Yeah.
All right. So all the writers out there, get your butts in the chair. Why are you sitting here watching us? You should be writing. because no one cares. Work harder. And with that, I am Kate. For lore and more, I am Kalene Williams. Thank you for joining us on your writer's journey. Be sure to check us out next week, where we're going to talk about more reading, writing, and everything in between, right here on Keystroke Mediums, The Writer's Journey.